Hello again everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to read to you my letter and tell you my story. So once again, I'm just asking please for your support and anything that you can do to help me out. Like my page, share my page, or anything you can do to help me get in contact with Chris Powell or Extreme Weight Loss. So in this video, I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to read my letter out loud to you. So here we go. Dear Chris and Heidi Powell, my name is Katarina and I'm 21 years old. I'm writing you this letter and I'm reaching out to you because I've reached my breaking point. I am at wit's end. I don't know what else to do or who else to turn to. I know that I'm overweight and unhealthy. I've struggled with my weight my entire life because, to be completely honest with you, I don't know how to be healthy. I'm here to tell you my story in hopes that you'll consider me as a potential candidate for weight loss and transformation. I strongly believe that in order for me to feel good about myself, I need to look good. I haven't been happy with myself or with my life in over 7 years. I want to regain my happiness again, and I know that the key for me to do this is that I need to get back into shape. I don't know how this happened to me. It's like I've lost control. I know that there are no excuses for it, but that's the truth. The harsh reality is that my self-esteem is shot. My confidence is gone, and I've never been more insecure. I feel embarrassed writing this letter because this is something that I don't really like to talk about or open up about. But I'm doing it in hopes that I'm doing something good and that maybe some good will come from it. I know that I'm over 300 pounds. Up until now, I haven't wanted to face it. I haven't worn a pair of jeans in almost 4 years because I don't want to know what size I am. I feel ashamed of myself and of my body when I look at myself in the mirror. I've been bullied for my weight my entire life. It's been heart-wrenching, and I felt so alone this entire time. I know that my parents love me and that they want the best for me. They've been my biggest supporters and have been encouraging me. However, I just feel like I'm being put down. My entire family has brought my weight up as being an issue to my attention. It's hard not to feel hurt by it. I don't think that a lot of people have been able to empathize and understand my struggle. This is how my story begins. Instead of closing the book, I want to start a new chapter in my life. For me to do that, I need a metamorphosis. I'm starting to get my life back on track, but I'm scared. I have a very small family. It's just my mom, my dad, and my uncle. I have no siblings, and I have no cousins. Most recently, my grandmother unexpectedly passed away, and she was more of a mom to me than anyone. Everyone in my family, for the majority, have passed away or have tried to die, in which case I didn't have a chance to experience much of a childhood, and I developed a fear of being alone. A lot of my weight gain does have to do with emotional trauma that I suffered as a child. My papa was the closest person to me in my family. He taught me everything that I knew, and when I was only 6 years old, he became ill with a disease called diffuse Lewy body disease. It was a cross between Alzheimer's and Lou Gehrig's disease. It ate away his brain, was bad for his heart, and made him more like a baby every day. He suffered from hallucinations, mumbling, drooling, losing control of his nerves in his body. His hands would shake and he would fall down. So on the weekends, I would go and stay with my grandparents while my parents worked. I remember paramedics rushing in and out of the house when I was sleeping that woke me up. I would go downstairs and my grandfather would be crying that my grandmother was dead on the couch when she was at the grocery store. He thought that I had purple skin and didn't even know who I was anymore. One day he showed up at my house with my parents at 5 o'clock in the morning, pounding on the door, thinking the police were after him. So I helped my grandmother take care of my grandfather. When I was little, watching my grandfather fall ill in front of me, I felt like I was watching God die. My grandfather was my world and my everything. In his eyes, I was perfect and could never do wrong. It just became harder as time went on by having to go in and out of hospitals. I grew up in hospitals and nursing homes. Every weekend, my grandma took us out to dinner every night. During the day, my papa would take me to McDonald's. Then on Sundays, when my dad would come to pick me up, we would get Popeyes on our way home. During the weekdays were no better. I was abused as a child by my mother. My dad worked retail, so he was hardly ever home. When I was with my mom, she would scream, yell, and call me names. She would call me a cow, mood at me, called me a fat ass, special ed, 300 pounds, a little bitch, a spoiled brat, etc. My mom would pull me by my ear, pound my head into the wall, kick me in my stomach when I was already down on the floor, cradled in a ball, crying, twist and pull my arm. She would always tell me later, after she had calmed down, that those were words of anger and that she didn't mean them. But she also told me that if I'd ever told anyone what was happening, that they would call DCFS and take me away from her. Then I wouldn't be with my family. To make up for abusing me, my mom would buy me things, as if she thought I would forgive her. I never wanted stuff. I just wanted to have a mom that loved me. Once she brought me home a full bag of clothes, and I was so excited trying them on that I took off all of the tags. I was only in 2nd grade. When I did that, because I was so heavy and overweight, my mom noticed that the clothes didn't fit me. Because I took all the tags off, she wasn't able to return them, so she took a vacuum cord and whipped me all over my body. I went to school the next day with marks all over my arms. When my mom waitressed and worked late, I would stay up waiting for her. I was a little girl, and I just wanted to see my mom. When I did, she screamed and yelled at me more. On another occasion, my mom tried drowning me in the bathtub, but my dad came and pulled her off of me. He would yell at her that she doesn't treat me that way or touch me. However, it never stopped. It only escalated further, and she abused me through high school too. When I was 9 years old and I was at my grandparents' house, my dad came once unexpectedly. I knew and could tell that something was wrong, but they sent me upstairs by myself. However, I didn't go upstairs. Instead, I sat quietly on the steps and I hid to listen. That was the first time in my life I sat and watched my dad cry. He told my grandma that my mom was cheating on him. She would come home late and she would lie. She told my dad that she had mosquito bites when she didn't. She cheated on my dad with 2 other men. I bawled my eyes out and couldn't understand it. Because of everything that I was going through at such a young age, I turned to food and saw food as comfort. When my babcia would babysit me, she made a lot of soup. They were really heavy. They had potatoes and stuff, and crepes a lot. I never understood anything about portions or portion control. When we did cook at home on the weekdays, it was a lot of steak and potatoes. When I was about 8 years old, I was prescribed Risperdal. They had given me a false diagnosis of bipolar disorder when I wasn't bipolar. From taking Risperdal, I had gained over 100 pounds in less than a year. The medication showed no changes in my attitude or behavior. Despite the problems I was facing in my family, school became even worse of a problem because kids are cruel. In elementary school, they started calling me Katarina Fatarina. Almost skipped a paragraph, sorry. That was only the beginning. My dad was also never home or around for any of my birthdays. I felt neglected and shut out for so many things. With my birthday being in December, he was never allowed to have the day off because he worked in retail. I would cry because I wanted my dad to be there for my birthday. In junior high, we moved from Round Lake to Crystal Lake because my mom's stepdad had a stroke. When I was in 7th grade, I was almost 300 pounds. I was only 11 years old, and I was a size 22 in pants. When I came to junior high, I didn't know anyone, and as it turned out, no one was interested in being my friend either. Junior high was the worst experience of my life, and I never want to go back there or repeat it. People that I had never met before and didn't know made fun of me. Since at my last school I was called Katarina, I changed my name. To avoid being called that again, I wanted them to call me by my middle name, Nicole. There was no avoiding it though, and there was no escape. No one sat by me at lunch. Instead, I sat alone and would cry. There was a boy that I liked named Connor, and I was made fun of for that too. When I went to the cafeteria, kids laughed and threw food at me. One time, a girl that bullied me a lot got on top of the tables and announced to the entire cafeteria that I liked Connor. Everyone laughed. That's when I started going to the bathrooms to hide and wait until lunch was over. They called me a whale, a cow, a pig, and the worst was when they started calling me Hurricane Katrina. Just because you're fat or overweight does not change who you are. You're still you on the inside. A person is still a person. While this was happening, my grandfather was getting worse, and we had to move him to a nursing home. I became gothic because I was so depressed and everyone hated me. I turned to music as my outlet for strength and to overcome the bullying. I listened to a lot of Britney Spears. She always was my icon, and she inspired me. Her music helped me through because I felt understood. It taught me how to be a strong, confident, independent woman. There were days when in the cafeteria, I had sat down at a table waiting for Connor. I started crying over my grandfather getting worse. A kid literally said to me, "No one gives a shit about your grandfather." I flipped my tray of food and started getting into fights. Everyone made fun of me because I liked Britney Spears. Instead of backing down, though, I stood up for myself and what I believed in. So because I supported Britney, the next day I wore my t-shirt from her concert and a bald cap. I stood up for her, for myself, and what I believed in. It didn't make much of a difference because they didn't care. I told them, instead of judging someone, maybe you should get to know them or try to understand what it is they're going through. Yet, it never ended. And in gym class, a group of girls surrounded me. They told me to punch them. When I refused, I told them, "I'm not going to punch you, please leave me alone and go away." Yet they didn't back off and kept insisting, "Come on, punch me." I never punched any of them. I continued to say, "Please leave me alone." Instead, they told me they wouldn't leave until I punched them. So I took my hand in a fist, and I gently touched a girl's face just like this. I didn't punch her. I never punched her. She began crying and ran to the teacher telling them that I punched her. That rumor followed me all through high school. Another time, the girl that announced that I had liked Connor in the cafeteria followed me to my locker. She kept getting in my face, pushing up against me, and wouldn't leave me alone either. My mom would tell me to fight back. And when we had a new kid, I was alone at my locker, and he told me how fat I am. Yeah. This is when I started loving in-school suspensions. I was able to do my schoolwork and be left alone without being bullied. My parents took me to have me tested again, and this time they found out that I was a perfectly normal kid. I was just difficult and didn't like being told what to do. I wasn't bipolar or anything. I also never lied. I told them when I was being bullied, but my teachers never believed me. I don't know. They didn't do anything about it. It never stopped. I remember when I stood in front of the mirror looking at my naked body, and I just lost it. I bawled my eyes out because I was so ashamed and disgusted with myself and with my body. And that was when Connor told me he only likes skinny girls. Please watch part 2 to continue the rest of the story.